Hello and welcome. My name is Mark Johnston. I'm the editor for Industrial Automation Asia. Today I'll be moderating the webinar Business Continuity in Times of Crisis. There will be a Q&A session at the end, so click on the tab below to submit your questions for the Q&A session later. Before I get into why we chose this particular topic, let me provide a brief introduction on IAA and what we have been up to recently. IAA has been around since 2001 and is considered the premier English language publication for industrial automation in Southeast Asia. In 2020, we achieved over 1 million page views and close to 80,000 users. During the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, we launched a digitalization roadmap to help manufacturers better understand their options as digitalization becomes an investment priority to support manufacturing resilience under the strain of an unprecedented crisis such as COVID-19. In 2021, we will have 8 digital issues a year with 4 print issues and 2 supplemental issues for the Thai and Vietnamese markets. These are important markets for our clients. Back to why we chose business continuity in times of crisis. COVID-19 has been called the Great Reset. It has served as a wake-up call to many. It is fair to say organizations who invested in digitalization prior to COVID-19 fared better than organizations who did not. A McKinsey study found that 59% of businesses before the pandemic said capability building was important to their company's long-term growth. This compares to 78% now, with 87% saying they have skill gaps that need filled. Furthermore, in the context of Singapore, nearly 3 in 4 organizations say they are now accelerating their pace of digitalization in direct response to the COVID-19 pandemic, according to market research firm IDC. The same study found that 80% of business decision makers said innovation is now a must to respond quickly to market challenges and opportunities, compared to 67% before the pandemic hit. Furthermore, the same study found that people and technology were the 2 foremost priorities for Singapore organizations going into 2021, with business decision makers saying they would prioritize the need to introduce new ways of working, with remote work being the new norm as a long-term strategy to future-proof their business. As you'll find out in this webinar today, Yokogawa also shares similar findings, with increased investment seen in tools to enable remote working from cybersecurity to IT infrastructure, which will be discussed later. In summary, companies around the world are trying to come to terms with the impact of a global pandemic is having on their business. Although the risks are considerable, the crisis also reveals areas where companies can build resilience and reshape themselves for our post-crisis world. Now, let me introduce today's first speaker. Our first speaker today is Vijayan Haridas. He's a practice lead of digital innovation, South Asia, at Insight. Vijayan has over 15 years of experience in the IT industry and has worked closely with many industries in their digital transformation roadmap. Today, he'll discuss market and technology trends in digital transformation relevant for manufacturers, as well as digital transformation best practice and cybersecurity. Over to you, Vijayan.
Transformation starts with us accepting a change, regardless of the industry that we are working in. Hello, my name is Vijayan. I'm here to share more about digital transformation in the manufacturing industry during this time of crisis. So, a quick introduction and a summary of myself. I have 15 over years of experience in the information technology industry. I've worked with multiple industries across a horizontal landscape, and manufacturing industry is one of those industries that I closely work with. Right, currently, I am the practice lead at Insight Technology Solutions, leading the digital innovation team for South Asia. I'm focused deeply in cybersecurity and digital transformation, or in our terms, we call it digital innovation. The organization that I'm working for is Insight Enterprises, which is a US-based company, providing expert guidance on how to secure and optimize and transform your business. We have done tons of transformational projects, helping organizations transform their business to new heights with new processes and new applications. We are a listed organization in US with our HQ in Tempe, Arizona, and we are here to help you in your transformation. So with that said, everyone is actually talking about digital transformation. So what exactly is digital transformation? It compromises of two stuffs. One is automating process. The other is empowering teams. So we have to understand that whenever we talk about transformation, process is something that is very, very crucial to get things done. But to move the stuffs to make it happen, we need the team. And we need the team to be empowered with the right tools to make that happen. And when the process and the team comes together, what exactly happens? We are improving process, operation, and customer relationship. Customer relationship is very, very important in digital transformation, regardless any industry. The main thing that we do a digital transformation is to make sure that we are going with the flow of where the industry is heading, where the technology is heading, and how we can harness these new productivity tools, these new productivity procedures to maximize our returns and profitability. So let's jump into digital transformation in the manufacturing industry. Everyone is actually talking about Industry 4.0. So what exactly is Industry 4.0? Our industry has gone through various revolutions, and there has been three phases. I'm not going to explain about one, two, and the three, but today, the current context where we are is the fourth phase. And that's the reason why we're calling Industry 4.0. And what does this 4.0 actually signify? If you can actually see in my slide, we're talking about data, real-time data. Data is happening as it's churning, it's growing, and it's becoming exponential. Even as I'm sitting down here doing this presentation, the data that I'm actually sharing, the data that this platform that is actually sharing, and the data in various industries are growing in gigabytes, terabytes, petabytes, and who knows what's going to be next, right? And the next phase after data, what comes in? The analysis of data, the understanding of data, and that's where the Industry 4.0 term, machine learning, comes into actually helping the 4.0. With machine learning, we have automation. With automation, we come into the last sector, what we call the IoT, the interconnectivity, which is becoming a very, very crucial aspect in a lot of industries and playing a very, very crucial role in manufacturing industries. So let me take you through that particular four scopes that we are actually talking about here. Data. Every single organization has tons of data. And these data are residing in legacy systems that are disparately segregated from one another. They're not sharing this data across with each other to harness the power of information that comes from this data. So even today, when I actually go and meet my clients, when I am actually having discussions with manufacturing industries, electronic industries, high-tech industries, what exactly is happening? The data is segregated all over the place in legacy systems. And the customers are sharing with me and sharing with my team. We can't handle the volume, the velocity, and the variety of the data that is being churned out by our legacy system. We need to understand what exactly is happening within this data, and we need means to read this data and make sense from them. And that is where we come into the picture. As one of the best practices in data management, the first and the foremost important thing that you need to do is understand your legacy systems, isolate them, and make a review of what these legacy systems are churning out. Once you have that understanding and the capability to understand where these data are being stored, the next automated process, or I would not use the word automated, the next logical process would be to look into the possibilities of transforming these legacy systems into a unified system where data can be centrally stored and centrally shared and centrally read. When you merge this data into a central system, that is where you're talking about making that big step forward in understanding what exactly is happening in your organization, right? And once you have this data in a central location, generally, we will now apply machine learning. Everyone has been struggling with analysis of data, and we have Excel that is able to do for you pivot tables, and you can actually read the data. But that's not what we are talking about industry 4.0. We're talking about taking the understanding of data to the next heights. We're talking about understanding what is going to happen, as predictive analysis talks about, right? And that is where you need machine learning, where it's able to tell you what are the waiting times, what are the maintenance requirements, and with all this information you can work to do risk prevention. Machine learning is the single most crucial thing in industry 4.0 after data. Once you have that machine learning in hand, you can start moving to automation, because with machine learning you have the information. With information in hand, you're able to understand what you need to do, and you can do away with repetitive actions, because data is going to give you information, and information is going to tell you lots of stuff. And once you have that information, like what I said earlier, you can start converting your manual processes into digital processes. For an example, you can adopt RPA, robotic process automation, to have it automatically been done when it comes to repetitive stuff. You're going to increase productivity when you do such stuff. And based on machine learning, you can improve your robotic processes. Machine learning tells these robotic processes what exactly needs to be done, how to fine tune it. The precision, the accuracy that you need comes from the information that you have understood from the data, and you're applying to the automation. And once you have this, you continue with the innovation and improvements within your organization in process and team empowerment. Once you have done this automation, what happens next? That's where we tap into IoT. And IoT is all about time and money. Imagine today you have a big organization in manufacturing factor, you have various equipments. Previously, we got to use manual labor process to understand what is going to fail. We had to go and check those equipments and that systems daily and do that particular call for maintenance. But today, with IoT, you are able to do a predictive analysis of when this equipment is due for maintenance, how is the current state of that equipment, and get all these notifications digitally while not at the plant, while you're sitting somewhere else, while you're sitting at home. All these alerts are churning to you back in email formats, in push notifications, and it's a mobile first world. Everyone wants to have this IoT stuff, getting all this information channeled back to them so they can make that right, precise decision on what is next. With IoT, you're going to boost production and human healthcare too, because you got to take care of your stuffs. You don't want something as a mishap to happen in your plant or in a particular process that is going to affect human healthcare. And human healthcare is the single most important thing in any industry, in any organizations. Once you have all these four components, the next important thing that we have to understand is cybersecurity. Everyone talks about digital transformation. While they're doing that, they forget the piece that they need to focus and patch up on. It is cybersecurity. When you have data, when you have information, when you have machine learning, tons of code, when you have IoT, interconnected devices, and if you're not going to secure your cybersecurity, you're not going to secure your endpoints, you're not going to enable your end users to understand what is phishing, what is ransomware attack, you are going to face a lot of challenges when your organization is put into a spot where it's hit by a malicious attack. So cybersecurity wraps the whole of digital transformation into one big ball. And with that done, what happens? The end state of digital transformation, is there an end state in digital transformation? No, there's no end state. This digital transformation goes over and over and over again for better data and automation used to drive B2B e-commerce and understand your customer centricity, ensuring that processes do not break with predictive knowledge of such situations, and boost productivity and production for higher returns. When we talk about digital transformation, there is no end when you start it. It is an ongoing process. You will have transformation teams, you will have change management, and you will have end user education and enablement. That is how digital transformation runs. And with digital transformation, your organization will see new heights. With that said, thank you once again. And departing from this particular presentation currently is Vijayan Haridas. See you guys.
Next up, we have Mark Madsen, Sales Director for Asia Pacific of Mobile Industrial Robots. Mark will provide an overview on general megatrends that affect internal logistics, how COVID-19 has affected the situation, and an outlook for implementation of mobile robots, as well as autonomous mobile robot technology and applications. Over to you, Mark.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Mark Madsen. I'm Sales Director, Asia Pacific without China for Mobile Industrial Robots, based out of Singapore. Mobile Industrial Robots is a Danish manufacturer of autonomous mobile robots, also called AMRs. Today I'm here to talk about supply chain resiliency, challenges and opportunities. And I'd just like to also take the opportunity to thank IAA for the opportunity to speak before you today. And I'd like to thank everybody who's listening in. Okay, let's get to it. Today I'd like to talk a bit about the general megatrends that we see affecting the internal logistics. Then I've gathered a bit of industry intel on the outlook for mobile applications and how this has been impacted by the global pandemic that we are still in the midst of. And after that, I'd like to take a look into some AMR applications and important things to consider when deploying safe robot solutions. So we are looking at some different megatrends that affects internal logistics. The first megatrend I'd like to talk to you about is the globalization of markets. This brings with it a rapid growth of new economies and new business models. This global competition puts pressure on continued optimization, and we have realized and found out that material handling is a non-value adding activity, therefore automated. Then we also see demographic shifts happening across the globe. Population gets older and new work patterns are forming. This brings with it labor shortage and retention hereof. The solution is to relieve personnel of repetitive and dull tasks, basically make your employees do meaningful work. Digitization and Industry 4.0, two very big buzzwords when you talk about factory automation. These two things enables a higher degree of automation and Internet of Things, but it also brings some concerns with it. First one I'd like to raise here is the need for connectivity between different systems. So this calls for integration into warehouse management systems and enterprise resource planning systems. And then there's another concern, which is the increased risk coming from the interaction between machines and people. And here the solution is to engage with safe and collaborative mobile robots. Then we also see a larger individualization of consumer needs. So this brings a need for mass customization to production setups with higher variety and smaller batches. Actually, we see a lot of our customers moving from traditional line production into cell production. This, of course, involves high switching costs, and the solutions that mainly exist in the markets today are non-flexible. Therefore, the encouragement that we always bring forward is to engage with an adaptable, scalable, and open platform setup. Looking at the emerging trends in the global market, and this is pre-COVID, we can look at this graph that shows the forecasts from 2018 all the way up to 2024 for AGVs, QR bots, and AMRs. All three robot types will be growing considerably, but I'd like to highlight here the growth of AMRs in particular. So they will take over, being the main dominator from AGVs, and also take up the largest portion when in the near future. As a whole, the industry is expected to average around a 50% growth on an annual basis. Looking at the impacts of COVID-19 into this graph shows revenue forecasts of AGVs and AMRs pre-COVID and with the current forecast. It is expected that the forecasted market size is $600 million smaller compared to pre-COVID. But it's still clear from the projections you can see on the screen that the growth is still considerable and very close still to the 50% growth originally projected. 2020 revenues were originally expected to see growth by 60%. This has now been revised to forecast at 25%. The 25% consisting of growth of AGVs by 11% and AMR growth of 45%. COVID has impacted companies' factory automation both in negative and positive ways. We've seen a lot of our customers really take different approaches to this whole pandemic situation and how to do factory automation. If we look at the negatives first, unfortunately and sadly, a lot of people across the globe have lost their jobs. This means that there is an increased pool of labor available, and this of course brings down labor costs, something that is not in favor of factory automation if you look at it purely from a return on investment perspective. Then I talked earlier about the shift to cell production. This is also something that we have seen could possibly slow due to the pandemic. And then we've seen delays in installations that were originally scheduled for 2020. They have actually been either delayed because of people not being able to work 100% with 100% efficiency as they were before, but also maybe just projects have been delayed and pushed into 2021. If we look at things from a more positive side and the COVID impacts that are actually driving the need for factory automation is, of course, still additional safety measures are needed on factory floors and warehouse floors. Social distancing is something that I think has been on the minds of most people across the globe these past 10, 11 months. And this is, of course, also something that will be reflected in our workspace. So social distancing may also require more automation. When we look at the regional shifts that companies are doing, this will bring an accelerated need for flexible manufacturing. When people have been under lockdown during this COVID period, we also see that there's an increase in e-commerce business and online shopping. So this means that the goods that were normally in shops where people would go to, these goods are now placed to a larger degree in warehouses and distribution centers. And that brings forward a need for factory automation inside those facilities. And then the two really, I think, immediate realizations is the desire to reduce reliance on human workforce in order to that also to avoid future disruptions like we've really seen with the COVID-19 during 2020. A few months ago, I listened in on a webinar within the semiconductor industry. And here they talked about CAPEX strategy during a crisis. This graph shows the total return of shareholders to shareholders of several semiconductor manufacturers over the period from 2007 to 2012. And it shows that the semi players that came out stronger after the 2007 to 2009 financial crisis, they actually showed a smaller CAPEX reduction during the crisis. So often the perceived action during a crisis is to freeze or cut totally CAPEX expenditures. But history tells us that maybe, although easier said than done, if you continue to invest in your company, your people, your production facilities, not only can you limit your plunge, but you can also recover faster and end up with a greater surge and advantage over your competitors on the other side of that crisis. So just a bit of food for thoughts here. Okay, so now I'd like to sort of jump a bit into real-life AMR applications and a few important things to consider when doing factory automation and mobile robot applications. So internal logistics and internal transportation is usually today done by manned forklifts, static conveyor systems, traditional AGVs where you have the need for installing magnetic stripes or other line follower devices into the factory floor, and then basically having people moving around trolleys or tracks that are specially designed. So basically people moving around goods on a factory floor. What MIR provides are basically the moving platform that will take whatever you need to transport from A to B autonomously and moving freely around. MIR makes a few standard top modules, but it is otherwise in cooperation with our local partners that we together make customized solutions to our customers. Just a few words on the sensor input that we use in the MIR robots. So we've got, we start here, we've got two laser scanners, one sitting in the front left corner of the robot and one sitting in the rear right. These two laser scanners scan full 360 degrees around the robot. The laser scanners are there for a few purposes. First one is, of course, for safety. So the robot uses the laser scanners to look for static or dynamic obstacles when driving around. The laser scanners are also used to map the facilities and to position and localize the robot when driving inside that map. Then we've got a set of eyes on the robot as well. So we've got two 3D cameras looking down on the floor and upwards for other obstacles that the laser scanners may not detect. Then we've got a number of proximity sensors around the robot to detect pallets and feet that the laser scanners and cameras cannot detect. These pictures are a few examples from customer sites where they're using MIR standard top modules. So if you look at the picture on the top left and the picture here in the bottom, you can see that these are our larger robots, the MIR 500 and the MIR 1000, with the pallet lifter device on top. So basically here the robot drives in under a pallet rack where you have pallets stocked, lifts up the pallets and transports the pallet around to the next stop in the facility. Then here, this picture in the top right-hand corner shows the MIR Hook, which is another intelligent robot that can detect a specific and specified trolley or cart from a QR code, see the dimensions of the trolley and the other specifications of the trolley, then go in, grab that trolley and drive off with it autonomously. So a few important things to consider, and really flexibility here is the key word, is to consider when you're choosing a solution, is to select an open interface and flexible interface that support different applications. It's important to choose a solution that is adaptable and scalable should your production needs change in the future. It's important to understand that when it comes to deploying safe mobile robot solution, different parties have different roles and different sets of responsibilities. Now, I'm not going to go into the specific of the schematics on the right side, but it basically shows that the AMR manufacturer, for example, have their own role and sets of responsibilities, which usually is centered around the AMR robot itself. Then the integrator have their own role and their own sets of responsibilities, which is centered around the total solution. And then the end user, the customer, also have their own role and their own sets of responsibilities. That could, for example, be ensuring that proper standard operating procedures are in place, that the personnel is trained in how to work safely alongside a factory automation system. Now, factory automation can be a big task when looking into this. So it's very important to get a full understanding of the needs and investigate the best and safest solution that will fulfill your requirements. So it's important to talk to your supplier on doing demonstrations and proof of concepts to make sure that you've got the right solution. The last point here I'd like to touch on is training. It's something that is very, very critical to mobile industrial robots. We put a lot of emphasis in this. We don't only train our partners so they can sell the products. We also train our partners so they can make great solutions for our customers, so that they can train our customers in how to use the robots in a safe and efficient way. And then we also train our partners so that they can provide first level service and support to the customers, something that is very, very critical to any business. Those were the words from me today. I hope you learned something new. I'd like to thank you for your attention. Thanks for listening in, and I look forward to any questions that may come my way during the Q&A session. Thank you.
Now we have Dr. Wang Ching. Dr. Wang is the Business Development Manager of Digital Enterprise Solution Division at Yokogawa. In his presentation today, he'll share the findings, challenges, and use of proven technologies towards the journey of autonomous operations. Over to you, Dr. Wang.
Good afternoon, everybody. This is Wang Cheng. I'm a Business Development Manager of Digital Enterprise Solution Division, working with Yokogawa, Singapore, headquarters of Asia region. I joined Yokogawa since 2002 and worked in various positions for advanced industry technology solution across Southeast Asia, China, as well as Europe. I'm responsible for advanced process control, dynamic simulation, digital twin, artificial intelligence, and MES business development. So today's presentation is about a journey from industry automation to industry autonomous, which is really expedited by the COVID-19 situation. Yeah. So the agenda of today is about industry trends and also the impact from COVID-19 to this industry trend. Also, Yokogawa's path from automation to autonomous operation. And finally, I will present just a few use cases from Yokogawa past experience. So let's start from here. So in the world of a process rapidly changing and the technology are driving company to adapt and evolve. To address this, companies are embracing projects in digital transformation to change many function components of their enterprise as well as their decision-making process. So Yokogawa conducted a global end user survey in 2020 on the outlook for industry autonomy. The results shows that 64% of respondents from the companies in process industry are anticipating fully autonomous operation by 2030. So if we look at the picture on the right top corner here, that is actually how many of the companies has invested significantly in their process decision-making process automation. So you can see that around 26% of Asia Pacific companies stated that they have conducted the significant automation of most decision-making process. So if we look at the bottom corner here, that is the statistic based on the vertical industry. So refinery, petrochemicals, and the power generation, including renewables, has the highest proportion of the investment here. So surprisingly, life science currently has the lowest proportion of adoption at only 12%. But you can see also it has the highest increasing in proportion to 2023. In fact, 69% of companies anticipating significant automation of decision-making process in 2023. Yeah. So then the next slide will see how COVID-19 has the impact on this industry trend. So you can see here, in the medium term means from 1 to 3 years, COVID-19 actually improved the prospect of industry autonomy because more and more companies are looking for remote operations and a more secure operating environment. The chart on the left shows over the next 3 years, you can see from here, about 54% of the participants think the company will increase their investment in autonomous operation. That is more than half. And on the right-hand side, you can see here the chart shows the applications that companies are investing in following COVID-19, including the tool to enable remote working from cybersecurity to IT infrastructure, right? So remote operation, worker safety, cybersecurity, remote servicing, and resource planning has all become the major important priority following COVID-19. Then we can further drill down into the technology here. So you can see that the proportion of companies that invest in the technology over the next 3 years, top two actually is cloud, analytics, and big data, and AI. Of course, cybersecurity and the IT infrastructure are the fundamental of all these new technologies. So this is really aligned with our first slides, that companies is automate their business decision-making process. So that's why they rely on cloud, big data, and artificial intelligence. So in contrast, investment in the specific device that support automation of a physical task is not as strong. As you can see, drone, AR, VR, vision systems, and the digital twin doesn't have that high portion as what is shown in cybersecurity and cloud AI. So this may be because devices such as mobile robots have already been introduced in the past 5 to 7 years, but it can also suggest a pivot towards increasing investment in automation of decision rather than physical tasks. That is really respond to the market change. The company want to be more agile in their approach or process to deal with today's challenging market situation. So the key of autonomous operation is to improve the decision-making process at nowadays, applying data-supported technology that leverage on AI, ML to generate a fast and reliable output. So this will enable the company to respond to the agile market as quick as possible, as we mentioned. So what is Yokogawa's vision about autonomous operation? So in general, autonomous operation refers to a system that enable or empower your site to run, to learn, to adapt, and thrive in tomorrow's environment. More precisely, Yokogawa's industry autonomy definition is a system, including a sites and operations that have a human-like learning and adaptive capability that allow it to respond without operator interaction or with minimum operator interaction to the situations within a secure bounded domain that were not pre-programmed or anticipated in the design stage. And of course, it has to respect to all the safety critical functions. So this is a bit similar to advanced process control concept. You know, when we put up APC online, the system activity is taking autonomous control of the process, but within a safe operation window. So when we come to journey, so because we believe autonomous operation is a journey from current status, so we divided this journey into 5 different steps. So it can start from step 0. Maybe it's a manual or semi-automated process. Then we put a PLC or DCS into the plant. So we get an automated process. Then from automated process, we further put on some decision supporting tools like APC, like optimization or other operation management solutions. Then we have a semi-autonomous process. Then if we can integrate all these solutions together from raw material supply to the final product logistics, then we can get an autonomous orchestration system. That means the system has integrated end-to-end solutions taking care from the supply to the logistic. Then on the top, we can have artificial intelligence to support decision-making process, AI, machine learning. Then we have autonomous operation at the end. So the left-hand picture actually is a high-level illustration from automation to autonomous. So when we have automation, automated process, we still need a human being like operator or manager to make decision in between a series of automated tasks, right? We still need a human to make decision at critical point. But when we towards to autonomy solutions with the supporting from all these autonomy solutions, we expect the human being can partially or supported by those AI applications to make a quicker or smarter decision in between the automated task. So as a result, this will bring us like increased flexibility, means we can respond to the market demanding more quickly and accurately. It brings us improved safety, higher reliability, increased efficiency, and of course, lower costing. So you can see here, in Yokogawa's culture, we define the whole IA to IA as a journey. So that is not going to happen in 1 month, 2 months. So we have to go through together with our customer through this journey. After all these things, how we can start our journey from automation to autonomous operation here. So Yokogawa is following a systematic approach from discover to design and development. So at the discover stage, Yokogawa is following a Smart Industry Readiness Index. So this is actually a system created by Singapore government in global partnership with leading technology companies, consulting firm, and as well as academic experts. So this is the world's first self-diagnostic Industry 4.0 tools to evaluate the current status of a manufacturing factory or plant. So without knowing where we are, we will not know how we can reach our final goal, the autonomous operation. And this tool is helping our customer to identify where they are now. So the whole index will include 3 fundamental building blocks, including process, technology, organization, and to tackle the full potential of Industry 4.0. So this is an example of our series assessment matrix score. By the way, Yokogawa have a certified series assessor to support our customer to conduct this assessment. So from this result, you can see we have 3 fundamental blocks, as I mentioned, and these 3 blocks will be further divided into 16 different dimensions, including vertical integration, horizontal integration, right, product life cycle. So in each dimension, we will support our customer to assess what is their current status by a particular score from 0 to 5. So this is the whole curve, right, across 16 dimensions. And from this score, we can identify where is the gap between current status and the best in the class. So we do have a database across different vertical industries like food and beverage, for example. So from this assessment result, we can help customer to identify where is the gap. So we can also support our customer to design and develop a particular solution to close the gap. Yeah. So this is actually our approach. We believe this is a systematic approach to support our customer to go through the whole journey. Yeah. I think that is the end of my presentation. So the presentation gave you our Yokogawa visions about autonomous operation and how we can achieve this final autonomous operation by go through the journey and our approach to support our customer to go through this journey. So maybe you can take our free online digital assessment by scanning the barcode here and gone through that assessment. By the end, you will get some results, a self-assessment report that help you to identify how ready is your company to adopt emerging technologies, how efficient are your company processes, and are they ready for integration to the adopted technologies? Are they also ready for future adoption? How adaptive are the leaders and the people to the new technologies, and how collaborative are they working? So all these are very basic fundamental questions that can help us to build our plan, to develop our plan towards to the autonomous operation. Yeah, thank you very much. That's the end of my presentation. I think I can take the Q&A after all the sessions. Yeah, thank you very much.
Lastly, but certainly not least, Adrian Stangl, IIoT Business Development Manager, Southeast Asia at Endress+Hauser, will discuss what a digital ecosystem is and how it can be applied to a plant or manufacturing facility, as well as providing a step-by-step approach to digital transformation and operational excellence. Over to you, Adrian.
Welcome, everyone. My name is Adrian Stangl from Endress+Hauser. I'm Business Development Manager for IIoT here in Southeast Asia. I'm very happy to be here, very happy for the invitation to give you a little bit on more insight on digital transformation, step-by-step to operational excellence. But before that, let's make a short introduction. So we are living in a very rapidly changing world, right? So digitalization is all in our minds, and there's so many different buzzwords for it: IoT, Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence, and so on and so on. So there is a lot going on with digitalization, and it's quite hard to keep up to track and make sure that you always understand what's going on. And that's why it's very important that you focus on what is there and what can help me in my digitalization to reach this operational excellence. So that's actually in the time we are living in. But in the end, you as a plant user has one goal, right? To be innovative and to increase the efficiency of your brand product, of your plant availability. So this is exactly what you can reach with digitalization. It's not a rush, right? It's not a marathon. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. So be sure that these are the main topics you have in mind, and look for tools where digitalization can help you to reach that. As I said, there's a lot in the market available, but it's important to narrow it down to, okay, what are the tools that can help me to get this operational excellence and to transform my company into a digital one. It is a very challenging, but also very exciting journey to get there, right? So it needs time. It's not something which is done by this and then you have it and you're digital. That's not the case. You also need to train your people, right? Not everyone is familiar with digitalization, with IoT, with software, with clouds. So we need to educate ourselves, and we need to educate the guys who are using these tools so we can make the best out of it. And that's very important. But in the end, there is growth for everyone, right? Growth for you, personally, but also for your company, because you can increase your plant availability and you can grow as a whole organization with digital transformation. We as Endress+Hauser developed this so-called Netillion ecosystem, as you see it over here. There's this Netillion in the center. It's actually the name of this all of this ecosystem. Netillion as a cloud in the center, but around that there's a lot more, right? So we said, okay, we have this Netillion-enabled field devices, not only Endress+Hauser, also third-party, right? So you see other colors down there, down here. And then, of course, it's nice to have these, but the data is always still there in the process. So it's important to get them out, to get them to a central location. And therefore, we have several tools to get data into this Netillion platform, to make it centralized and to save it all in one location. On the other side, we are also developing new sensors, which are already directly connecting to this Netillion cloud. All right, cool. Getting data into a cloud. And now, right, that's always the most important question. We can get the data out of it, but then it's the question, okay, how can I, as a user, use this data to create value, to increase my efficiency, and so on. And therefore, there are a few services available. So we have these so-called Netillion services, very easy to use, specific for some pains you have and some activities you need to do. So as I said before, step by step, and focusing on the thing you can do with digital transformation instead of doing everything at once, which is then already overwhelming. On the other side, if there are big customers who are already having an IT system like SAP, like Salesforce, like AWS or Azure, and they're using it in their daily life already, but they do not have access to the data, we also can do this so-called Netillion Connect, where we can transfer data via an API, application programming interface, to have everything in one system. And all of that because there is this idea of value optimization, increasing the plant efficiency. And how this looks like, I will show you in a few slides, so to give you a little bit more insights on that. But first, on a general view, I guess we all know this. It's the automation pyramid, right? With DCS system, MES system, and ERP system. And this is more the part of the operator. So he wants to make sure that the plant is running smoothly. But what about the maintenance technician? Do they have the same needs, or the service guys or service department in general? We don't think so. So that's why our Netillion approach is going to the maintenance technicians, and we open a so-called second channel, as you can see here, where we get the data out of the field device directly and open a second channel and send them to Netillion, where we can have this very specific services then to solve a problem and to increase your efficiency. And also in this case is, you see, why do we open a second channel? Quite simple. We don't want to interact with the DCS system and with anything in the automation pyramid, because there are two different use cases and also two different users. So here the operator and here the maintenance technician, and whatever they do, of course, they should work together, but the systems itself, they shouldn't interact with each other. That's why we go with the second channel approach. So the title is Digital Transformation Step by Step to Operational Excellence, right? So here you see a kind of a digital journey you can go and go a step-by-step approach, so you can reach this digital transformation in your company. And the first part always is transparency. What do I have in my plant? Of course, you know, you have flow devices, you have valves, you have pumps, but do you know from which manufacturer? Do you know how old they are? Well, most of the times I ask these customers, they don't even know. So here with this Netillion Analytics, we give insights on the transparency. So what do you really have in your plant? So you have a base where you can work on with, right? So the first step, make sure you know what you have, because with that information, you can go on and go to the next steps. And the next step could be, for example, documentation. So each of these assets, as we call them, they have specific documentation, manual, technical information, calibration certificate, whatever. And these documents are mostly still printed in some folders, right? But how about to get them centralized in a central location where everyone can access to them, and my colleagues can work easily with them. I have access to them from my home, my work colleague has them, and we can share them instead of always printing out and searching for these stuff. So therefore we have Natillion library, which is actually an extension of this Natillion analytics, where I have my install base and then I add these documents to the specific assets and I have everything at one place. A third step could be in this digital transformation journey to take a look into diagnostics, health diagnostics of my devices. How healthy is it? How healthy is my plant? Is everything running smoothly? And with this Natillion Health, we can give this insights on any 107 health status. So is my device good? Is it in failure mode? Is it in maintenance required, on function check, and so on and so on. Everything available from anywhere at any time. So even when you sit, for example, in your home and you need to check if everything runs smoothly, or you get even an alert and say, hey there, this tag is falling out. This is now a failure. You know exactly what to do and you can react very fast. So in these times in these COVID times where we are not every day in the office or in the plant to check, very helpful to have this also from your home available. And then the other steps are process monitoring, right? Really monitoring the processes, so the PV, the SV, there's already quite a few years in the market, but this could be the fourth step, for example, to make sure that that you have all these process variables also in your pocket available on your smartphone, tablet, wherever. And last but not least, two more. Natillion Connect, I mentioned it already, is a little bit more complex. Data integrity to transfer them from one cloud to another if you have already a big IT infrastructure available. And last but not least, you can also think on remote support if you don't want to do it all alone. But here you see it's a journey, right? You can do this step by step. It doesn't need to be all at once. Start with one small and then go step by step to your operational excellence. I want to give you a few examples so you have it a little bit more crispy. So here the driver, for example, for let's say plant operator is reliability. The motivation is, of course, to reduce costs and standardization. And with this Natillion analytics, which I just explained to you, that there you can really mitigate your risk. So you see the obsolescences, you see also how many different manufacturers I have in my plant, and you can standardize. And of course, you can save their costs, but you also standardize all your, let's say, equipment, maybe over several sites, not only on your own, but if you have more of them in your country or even in the world, you can standardize this. And an example here is one in the food and beverage industry in Switzerland, where a customer has 271 assets actually, but already 34 manufacturers. That's actually crazy, right? You have 34 manufacturers. So there's so much you need to know from each of the manufacturer contacts. Every device is different. I don't know how to fix this and that one. So you see here, a lot of them is Endress+Hauser, but there are also many others. And that's why I said it's independent, manufacturer independent. That's very important about this ecosystem we are talking about. It's also very important for you because you not always have just one manufacturer, right? So very important here, independent, but 34 manufacturers, that's really crazy. And with this overview, you see now, okay, maybe I can standardize. Why do I have so many with just one device? Maybe I can standardize it and use another one, right? And also on the other side, you get insight on the asset obsolescences. So 15% are already order stop of my whole plant. So there is a risk of unplanned shutdown. So you can increase your plant availability with this one. Another value delivered is workflow efficiency here, right? So with this Natillion library, as I said, you can easily collaborate your document and your work done with your colleagues. And if you use for example, a device configurator, and you're walking out in the field and you do calibration or you do a configuration or commissioning, how nice it is if it's already easily available, automatically uploading it to this Natillion, and you have everything at one place. And your work colleague 2 weeks later who's going to the same tag can see what you've done and don't need to look for it in the folders. So here you can really save 10 to 20% of the more time for important things, like making sure that the calibration schedule is on time, and so on and so on. And you don't need to do the USB stick printing, putting into a folder stuff. So that's not necessary anymore. Really here, agility and collaboration as a main focus and as a main benefit. Also an example I brought here is chemical industry in the Netherlands. There's a customer using a so-called field expert with Natillion library. And just to quote it, so if he's doing some parameter changing, it will automatically create a PDF. And if they put it into the docking station, it will automatically send it up. And you see it here in the screenshot. So we have this asset, and then we have all the documents here below, and I can search for them very easily, access from anywhere at any time, as I said before. Last but not least, also the driver is planned uptime. And here we are focusing on the topic diagnostics. So how healthy is my plant, and how fast I need to act to if there are any troubleshooting issues. So with this Natillion Health, you have these informations from anywhere at any time available. That means I see the NO107 status, but also the cause and remedy, right? So even before I go into the field, I see already what is the failure, so I know what kind of tools I need to fix it. And how often does it happen that you go into the field, see, okay, this is the failure, but then you need to go back because you need this and this and this tool, and then you need to go back in again. And that's exactly the time you can save here to make sure that your plant is running all the time. So again, an example from the food and beverage industry here in Mexico, which are using these Natillion Health. And you see here this overview. There are a lot of them all right, but there are assets and tags which are not working properly, right? Even in failure, function check, out of spec, or maintenance required. So these are the ones I need to tackle first today, right? Instead of making the whole round, I know I need to go to the stack because there's something wrong. And for the customer, he's like, Natillion is our doctor in our plant because it's always there when we need it, and helping us to make sure that our plant is running smoothly. So all in all this together, to give you a short summary is that with this Natillion ecosystem, you can really go the step-by-step approach to operational excellence, right? It's multi-brand, it's multi-devices. We are working with a secure cloud with ISO 27001. So this concern on data security is really gone here. We can connect cloud to cloud if necessary, but it's also kind of easy deployment because you can just try it out for free, right? There's a free of charge available, so you don't need to pay anything. You try and you see, and to make your first experiences with this digital transformation. Also, in a long-term view, it's very economical, the implementation. And for this Natillion Connect, we're using a very simple API integration. In the end, everything is very cost transparent because you see the prices at anywhere at any time in the internet, but you can be sure you will get a fast payback on that. Just on an example I showed to you, you will see it very fastly. In the end, if customers, of course, want to be flexible and want to customize it, that's definitely not a problem. So I want to thank you very much for your attention. And I want to give you just a small advice. Really go step by step if you want to go to this digital transformation. Don't do everything at once because it's overwhelming. Go step by step. Look for partners who can work with you on that. And start small, and then over time go bigger and bigger, because that's the very important thing. Digital transformation is not a sprint, it's a marathon. And yeah, thank you very much. And looking forward to the Q&A session later and to the discussion. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for your attendance today. We're now going to go into the Q&A session. So if you have any questions, just post them below. So I'm going to request that the panelists unmute and switch on their cameras.
Mark, actually, I cannot open the video.
Let's see.
Same for me, Mark. I get a prompt that says the host has stopped it, if that helps you.
Okay.
Now it works, I guess.
It's working now, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, thanks for your presentations. A lot of useful information there. So firstly, do we have any questions from the attendees? I think you have answered them. So, okay, my first question, I would like to ask this to Mark. Supply chain resilience has become a top priority for many organizations. How has the pandemic impacted your own business? And do you see any, how will it impact long-term investments in your view in terms of logistics and supply chain?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Mark. We've really seen our customers take two different approaches during 2020. There are really those that have really gone in and said, we're going to stop all CAPEX expenditures, we're going to delay projects. And then there are those that actually have said, this is what we need now. We really need factory automation during these times because we need to make ourselves less, what's that word? Less sort of, they need to take away the risk of unforeseen things like a pandemic. So this is really two different ways of doing things. How has it affected us? We can see this is not only the mentality of the companies, also of course some of the industrial verticals that make this shift. For example, we've seen automotive bleeding quite a fair bit last year. And of course, that has really struck the automotive part of business. And then we see actually a lot of electronics manufacturers. They've actually gone up and doing more factory automation today because there's just been a lot more need for PCs and mobile phones and things around that. So that's definitely two verticals that have moved in sort of opposite directions. But again, just in general, because we have a lot of automotive customers that have really been booming last year and done a lot of factory automation. I'd say the sort of the long-term impact we could be looking around is really centering around getting the efficiency higher, right? Because it also, when we are struck by these unforeseen things, we really need to be efficient as companies and to make it a sustainable business continuously. And then the safety is a really big factor now, coming in with more sort of on the health side and not only on safety around forklift trucks or people getting hurt. I think it was you, Vijay, you also spoke a bit about internet connectivity today is also something that everybody's doing, right? We are starting to use a lot more software, a lot more server-based things and things that are attacked by sort of the outside world. So engaging with solutions that have those capabilities is super important to manufacturers and distribution centers and companies today.
Okay, great. Okay, do we have any more questions? Okay, I have another question for Dr. Wang. So I'm interested in Siri. You had a number of slides talking about Siri, which is something which the Singapore government talked a lot about during last year's ITAP. Is this something which is only available to customers in Singapore? Is it a regional thing? Is it? I understand they're working with the World Economic Forum to make it a global standard. So maybe is this something? Is CRE assessment something that you offer as a package? Maybe you can just tell some of our attendees maybe just some more information on that.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Good afternoon for everybody. Regarding our CRE, yes, we do offer this assessment workshop to global customers. Actually, Yokogawa internally, we have a standardized approach towards this digitalization, because CRE is very useful for those customers who got the instruction from their management. Hey, please, Mr. Zhang or Mr. Chen, please try to figure out how to digitalize our company. Then once you got this instruction, probably you got a little bit blurred. So where I should start by looking at my instrumentation or whatever. So this CRE assessment provide our a framework, so we can assist our customer to look at different dimensions, not only by automation or digitalization connectivities, those common terminology we use every day, but also we try to link all this assessment score on each dimension to the business driver behind, whether we can achieve more profitability by achieve, let's say, score 5, or even achieve a score 5, it doesn't help me to reduce my costing. So it's not only about digitalization, but also a systematic approach to find out what is the right way, what is the right applications to implement to achieve our business goal. So yes, we do offer this service to our global customers. Yeah.
Okay, great. So my next question is to Adrian. So when we talk about you talked a lot about digital ecosystems, and there seems to be an appetite for, in my view, more open source type technology within the sector at the moment. So what's your take on this, and maybe could you elaborate on how you see digital ecosystems evolving into the future?
Yeah, thanks Mark for the question. I hope you can hear me. Yeah, okay, you can hear me. Good. Yeah, that's actually true. So without having an open technology ecosystem, it's quite difficult to survive in the industry, because yeah, the plant manufacturers, they are not having only one supplier, right? They have several vendors, several companies, especially the big ones. And if you narrow it down to your own technology, what you have or what you develop, you won't be successful, because if everyone would do that, the customer would have like 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 cloud systems or ecosystems, and no one would actually know how to handle it. And yeah, we do see that that there is this big appetite, so that's why we have also this independent ecosystem available, open for all vendors and all platforms. And we're also working in this Open Industry 4.0 alliance with several end customers, partners, also other suppliers of measuring instruments, to make sure that we in the end serve all the end customer, right? Where we have the same end customer, and we are working together that he can use this digitalization topic all in the same way, in the same manner. Because if we don't do that, then the end customer would just say, no, I don't do it because it's too much effort for me. Instead of going it the old way still works, right? I still make my profit. But if you make it too complicated for me to migrate to this digital transformation or to go step by step, then I just leave it as it is. And that's exactly the work we need to do as suppliers, as partners of our, let's say, common customers, to make sure that we use this open architecture, use this open technologies. And I do see that this is evolving more and more in this direction. As I said, last year, they opened this Open Industry 4.0 Alliance, where they're currently working on on new use cases from everywhere, from also different parts of industries coming together to make sure this works. So there will be definitely evolving in the next few years where let's say the end customer is also in the main focus on that, and how can we all work together that it's only one system or one integration system instead of several. So.
Okay, great. Okay, so a question for Vijayan. Everyone agrees on the advantages of digitalization, but perhaps you can elaborate on some of the options available to organizations that might be concerned about training costs and having adequate skills in-house. Because a lot of these organizations are quite, SMEs, they're smaller, that maybe don't have the resources to hire the skilled labor. So are managed services, are managed service providers an option? I mean, what maybe you can discuss maybe what some of the options are available from your own experience.
Sure, Mark. Thanks for the question. And hello, everybody. I hope I'm actually audible to everyone.
Yes.
Right, thanks. So that's a very good question. And when we talk about digital transformation and modernization, right, it's not that everyone can actually take everything on themselves. It's a huge step forward. It's modernizing every single component of your process lifecycle. And there will be points where you will have to actually reach out to managed service providers, like what you just mentioned, Mark. Because if you're an SME, there's only so much that you can actually do in today's industry when you want to modernize. When you tap onto those managed service providers, they already have their ready system that would be able to help you enhance those processes and at a lower cost, which each organization doesn't need to actually spend reinventing the whole cycle again. But a key point that we need to understand here, when we start outsourcing our processes to managed service providers or partners, even like Insight is one of them, we need to actually understand which process we are outsourcing. You would want to take a step back and think whether you are going to outsource your R&D document process. How are you going to outsource your security processes? There are some processes which you still have to contain within your own organization. And there are some processes which you can actually leverage on managed service providers to enhance and transform within your organization. So that would be my view from where it's actually happening and what we have been actually doing within this particular industry itself.
Okay, great. One more question for you. Well, for SMEs watching right now, manufacturers watching, what's the single best thing organizations can do to improve their cybersecurity posture?
Right. That's a very big question and a broad question. And I believe Adrian, Mark, and Dr. Wang had actually all shared all their views. So this whole thing about cybersecurity has been actually going around for a very long time. Only thing now with the whole cloud transformation, it's actually taken a big leap forward. So I would always like to say that when we talk about security, right, the single weakest point in security, or what we call in cybersecurity, is us humans actually. So when we talk about, and in manufacturing processes and in any organizations, we talk about corporate information and corporate documents as the single most attacked object for malicious intruders and attackers, right? And that's where we got to actually focus on educating our end users to be aware of what are the threats that are actually happening out there, such as ransomware, phishing, that could actually compromise organizations and lead to company intellectual property being stolen by these malicious attackers. At the same time, we should also control the endpoints and secure the endpoints where we are actually putting our IoT, because IoTs are actually open source softwares. And when we talk about open source software, it actually falls back to us to ensure that we actually harden those security points and so on, which can prevent further damage in terms of our process and manufacturing timeline and lifecycle.
Okay, great. Okay, we have some questions from the attendees. Okay, so the first question is, I understand the upgrade to the upgrade to IoT, and so the question is, how about the 5G, and will it impact the market and future equipment changes? Maybe I think this is a question to everyone. So the question basically is on 5G and how will it impact the market and the future equipment within the market?
Okay.
So that's a question for everyone, basically.
Yeah, this is Wang Cheng speaking. Yeah, I would like to say something about 5G because we do have a number of customers who are very interested in 5G. So if we are talking about only the technology, we have quite a mature technology in the market to transfer, let's say, a Wi-Fi signal into 5G, 4G. A robot, most of the robot is already 4G, 5G ready to deploy. But what does this mean to the customer? We know recently there's a lot of customers looking for a remote control center, a remote advisory center, or unmanned operation. So 5G from a technology point of view, it provides reliability, 99.99, and the latency is declared to be less than 10 milliseconds. So basically, if we look at only all these parameters, 5G is something ready for even a real-time control from the cloud, but we all know the cybersecurity, the safety, even the EISD, how to handle all of these things is another issue we have to be facing every day now. So yes, in terms of technology, it is ready for remote control. So number two, the safety, cybersecurity, how to realize unmanned control is something we have to address before we implement 5G. Yeah, thank you.
Okay. I'll ask one last question. We have one question from the audience, from the attendees. So basically, the question is how to start the journey to digitalization when most of the existing automation technologies are legacy systems. Is there a need to modernize the existing automation systems before going into digitalization? So this is a question for everyone. Whoever wants to answer that.
Yeah, just one or two sentences from my side. So I do think that if you want to go digital and if you want to use these new technologies, you need to get rid of your old stuff. It's quite simple, right? You also cannot expect that with your old Nokia or Sony Ericsson from the 2000 years that you can do now. You have a 10 megapixel camera and internet and everywhere and so on and so on. So there is this kind of course, this kind of invest necessary to go for that, but you don't need to do it, let's say, everything at once, right? So you can start maybe with a smaller portion of what you're going to upgrade and see then based on that, okay, this is what I can reach, and then you can go maybe half a year later and say, okay, now this planned part is part of my update, and it's not that you need to reinvest now the whole plan, right? Going step by step, learn over the way, then also new technologies coming up, right, in the next 2 or 3 years. So start small, right? Make your experiences, and then you're going bigger and bigger. But without upgrading it, it's quite difficult, right? If you use still the equipment you bought 10 or 20 years ago, it's quite impossible. Just my opinion on that.
Okay, great.
I have a small comment maybe to add just to what Adrian is also saying. And I spoke a bit about this also in my presentation. It's really about choosing a solution for whatever that part of the entire factory floor is going to be. It is about looking a bit further into the future as well, make it adaptable and scalable, thinking a few steps ahead, because like you say, Adrian, it's a lot of steps that will happen over a number of years, but they still need to have this sort of interconnectivity, right? Whereas in the old days, you purchase one system that could do this, then another system that could do that, and then you would do sort of the interconnectivity manually, people moving stuff around on the factory floor or whatever it may be. Now these all need to be connected to whatever software systems you have or server solutions and cybersecurity and going into all of that. So I think that's very important to have in the mind that you need to think about all these things. And it can be a big task, and that's also why it's probably a good idea to also talk to some proper solution providers in the market that knows the best systems available and can help with that whole integration portion.
Okay, great. So that's it for today. I want to thank the panelists. Thank you all for your time today and answering the questions and your presentations. And any unanswered questions, we will follow up after this webinar. So just leave your contact details, and we'll be in touch, and stay safe. So thank you, everyone.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks
Thank
for
you.
having us.
Listening in.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you for having
Thanks
us.
for your time.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.